This morning at 06:30, Maritime New Zealand attended a Switzer planning meeting. At that meeting, Switzer indicated that they were going to be deploying 4 teams on board the Rena today. Those teams, the tasks those teams had to undertake was the first team was going to move on board, continue pumping oil from number 5 port, and to work on tweaking and speeding up the system. At 1400, 256 tonnes of heavy fuel oil had been transferred to the Awanui. The second team was going to start the process of putting pumps into the settling tanks which are inside the engine room, and then the hose lines out onto the deck and then transferring over to the Awanui. So it was about setting that system up. They're not going to connect into the existing system. They'll leave that alone so that it can be operating completely independent of this second system that they'll set up. So they'll do a completely independent set of lines and hoses right through to the Awanui. The third team, what you'll see here is a series of photographs which show the third team working on setting up the staging area. And this demonstrates the 21-degree listing. So they're working in this space, and what they're doing here, as you can see, the dark, the shape, platforms that they're setting up to take generators and large compressor units on the deck. And this is so that one of the things that this team's doing is increasing the amount of power that they have. The more power they have, the more pumps they can add into the system, the faster they can get the system going. So that's the function of that third team. The fourth team is made up of divers. They are working in a corridor on the starboard side. Most of this corridor is underneath the water. They've cut some holes into the deck space so that they can pass their umbilical lines, their air hoses down into this workspace, and then the divers can operate in here. Before they can do a lot of work in there, they've got to remove oil which is on top of the water in there. So they're actually skimming the oil in this passageway and removing that into a slop tank in the engine room. And then once they've got that, those divers will then place a bulkhead or a cofferdam inside this passageway and then start pumping that passageway up so that they can then get access to the number 5 starboard hatch cover, and then they can look at how they're going to deal with that. So there's quite a bit of work for that team to do before they can actually start getting anywhere near oil. So it's about investigation, trying to get the space so that they can actually work and operate. 2 other features that I'd like to report. Switzer have now got the Pencaldo, which is the heavy lift crane container vessel that has been on station out in front of the town beach of Mount Maunganui, and that has started to retrieve containers off the seafloor, and the first containers came up earlier today. That will continue that operation over the next coming days and move from the different sites where there are other container parks in the area. In addition, there is another vessel that Switzer Salvage have contracted, and that's the Go Canopus. This is a 150-tonne bollard pull, ocean-going anchor handling tug. So it's a really large tug built for really rough conditions. It has a dynamic positioning system, which means that they dial up a GPS location, and then regardless of the weather and wind and all the rest of it, it will keep this vessel on station. So they're using this, they're intending to use this as a backup vessel should rough weather come in and the Awanui no longer be able to pump directly to it because of the rough weather. They'll look towards using this vessel as to receive the oil into.